my little remit was to try to talk to you about the things that go wrong in a horse's foot. Okay? But in order to find out what goes wrong, we have to know what's there in the first place. Okay? There was recently a person bought a new Saab in Liverpool, and proud he was of his car too. And he parked it outside his house overnight, so all his neighbors could see his 10 registered Saab coupe convertible. And on the morning, he got out of his house, picked up his key, went to his car, unlocked the car, the locks worked, that was fine, and he got in the car and he turned the key. Nothing. Completely dead. So he thought, oh, Saab's got funny things, I'll look in the book. So he got the book out, he read the book for 5 minutes. Of course, all the neighbors are saying, oh, he didn't even read the book before he started. And then he thought, no, it must be the battery. Opened the bonnet, looked under the bonnet, no engine. His engine had been nicked overnight. It could only happen in Liverpool, couldn't it? Brand new engine gone overnight. Extraordinary, isn't it? Anyway, the reason I say that is that if you have something wrong, you really need to know where to look, and therefore you need to know what's inside. Okay, so when you look at a hoof of a horse, if you look, you see that there's the outside and there's the coronary band at the top. And the coronary band is like the quick of your nail, which is growing the hoof downwards, okay? And of course, it's got a nice shiny surface on the outside, which some of us paint with other colors. Probably you, probably you, probably you. Ah, you do, don't you? I bet you do you?
If I had a horse, I would.
Oh, okay. But you paint your own nails, don't you? No? Oh no, you bite your nails. No, well then you get paint poisoning, you see, so don't do it. Okay, I take your point. But the important point here is that this is a nice shiny surface that's produced by the coronary band. And the coronary band also produces the bulk of the hoof. And then inside that, there's a very, very tight and close attachment to structures which are binding it to the pedal bone. Okay, and if we open then the hoof, we can see those structures inside. There's the bones that go down. We're going to pass this round in a minute or two. Okay, and there's the tendons and things at the back, and there's the pedal bone inside with the hoof wall round the outside and the sole. And then if you look at the bottom of the hoof, like so, you see that there's a frog. You don't need me to tell you this. You'll look at it every day. Actually, you look at 4 times a day, don't you? 1 on each leg. Okay. And you clean it out in between, and that's fine. So that's because that sole is a very different structure from the hoof wall. And the reason it's very different is because it has to, the hoof wall has to grow down. Just like your nails grow down, the hoof wall grows down and keeps coming out the far side. So, now, what I need, come over here, look, stand here. You're going to be my pedal bone. You're going to be the pedal bone. Okay, now here we got a pedal bone. Okay? You don't have to run away. Okay? This is my pedal bone. I'm just grabbing here so I can get a hold of you. Okay? Okay. And this is the hoof wall here. Okay, so this pedal bone wants to go down. She wants to sag down, but I'm holding her up, like so. Because all the weight of the horse is pressing on here, look. Okay? All the weight of the horse is going down. And I'm holding this up here. And I'm attached here, good and tight. Okay? And I'm holding this up like this, aren't I? See? And I'm getting tired now. I'm getting tired. Not because you're very heavy. But no, you're very light. Okay. But because of that weight all the time. This is a very energy demanding thing because this horse is standing on here 24 hours a day, pressing down on here. Go down, like this. Go down, go down, go down. She likes a bit of rough, you know. But anyway, okay. But this is how it is. So now this is a very energy demanding thing. So where do I get my energy from? If I'm this little cell holding this across, I get it from glucose. Yeah, blood and glucose. So I've got to have blood, I've got to have oxygen, and I've got to have glucose. Do you see the connection now to Cushing's disease? Because to get the glucose into here, I've got to have somebody who's going to feed me Mars bars called insulin. Here it is. And the insulin comes along, okay, and peels the Mars bars. Peel another one. Okay, and feeds me like this, okay? But now I get insulin resistant. The cell now is insulin resistant, okay? See? Okay, thank you. You're very good. Okay. And what that's telling you is that if that's the case, as being this very energy demanding process, you have to have that kind of support to hold this. Because as this hoof wall grows down, it's, as you know, it's growing down, okay, because you know that, because your farrier comes and cuts it off every year, doesn't he? And this is going down like this, and it's taking these lamellae down, okay, the laminae down, but then it has to go back to where it was before. So it has to let go and attach. Otherwise, the hoof wouldn't grow out the bottom. Okay, in exactly the same way as your nail grows down from the top to the bottom, it's attached in exactly the same way. And if you have ever break your nail, you probably broke your nail yesterday. Oh, damn, I broke my nail. You own horses. You don't have nails, I don't suppose. Okay, and anyway, they're black underneath anyway. Okay, but if that's the case, okay, if you look there, as you peel your nail back, you'll see those little lines where those laminae attachments. It's exactly the same thing, okay? But now, if I scar this, if this little cell becomes scarred now, and I just get a grip here, and I decide I'm hanging on in here, I can't do anything because I'm not normal, okay? And I've got a grip here, and this doesn't let go. So when it gets to here, I don't let go because it's a scar. It's not healthy tissue. It's not going to let go. It's a scar. It's not a very delicate structure, and it just gradually grows down like this. But when it gets here, it starts getting really tight, and I don't want to move anymore, and I stop. You see, like so. And now, the hoof is still coming. Can't go anywhere. So the hoof stops growing. Not entirely, just a little bitty. And that's why, if you look here, what happens here is that the hoof wall has stopped growing on the front, okay, because it's attached and scarred inside, and it's still growing at the back. Okay, and it continues to grow because this is where most of the energy support has to be. It has to be here. So that becomes the area that's most affected. Okay, and at the back is much less affected, and it continues to grow. So what's that going to do? It's going to tend to turn this, isn't it? It's growing at the back and stopped at the front. It's going to turn this. Not only that, it's painful at the front. It's painful. The horse doesn't like standing on it because it's sore. So what does he do? Turns his foot and starts walking on the heel like this. So he's turned his foot now, and this now doesn't have any force on it, and this starts to grow. So you know that picture that David showed, and Kathy showed another one of this huge Turkish slipper thing like that. I heard everybody gasp when they saw it. I said, why are you gasping? That's not bad laminitis. It's mild laminitis that has been badly neglected. It's not the same thing as a very serious laminitis that hasn't been neglected, because that wouldn't show like that. Okay, so that's the kind of laminitis that these kind of metabolic syndromes produce. Okay, and here you have exactly that. So this is exactly what that state of affairs is. Okay, and I'm going to pass this around now for you to have a look at. On the other side of this, I don't want to split it out if you don't mind, because it was the same horse. Oops, that was a close shave. Okay, it is the same horse, but what we did was to ask a farrier to prepare this side, ideally. Okay, so that's the same hoof, now prepared better. What I want you to have a look at is the angle of the sole and the pedal bone between these two. I want you to look at the width of the white line and to look at the general support that this foot has got. Because it's leaning backwards, it's square. This one is like this, if you get the drift. Okay, this has got a long, long, long toe with a big hole in the front, okay, into which sand, grit, so on, gravel can be wedged. And once it's in there, it's inside the foot to all intents and purposes. And so you can get an abscess, you can get all that, and eventually, of course, it bursts out at the coronary band. As soon as it damages the coronary band, you're up the creek. Okay, it's good that it bursts out, of course, but we don't want it there in the first place. So, those are the different manifestations of the milder forms of colic, what am I talking about? Thinking of the colic. Milder forms of laminitis. Okay, that once that happens, that rotation is going to start taking place. The second reason why that rotation takes place is this business of the flexor tendon, which is attached to the back, and of course the extensor tendon is attached to the front, but also to the hoof capsule in effect. So that can't pull out of position. But if that breaks down, the back one doesn't let go. It can't let go, it's attached. And I'm going to show you some video to show you that now, to show you how that is. So when that starts pulling at the back, you can't stop it. It goes on pulling and pulling and pulling, and that's rotating it even further. So that's doing that. And then we have the sinkers. And the sinkers are those things that happen where all the laminae let go simultaneously. Okay, and our pedal bone plummets to the ground. Not by tiredness, but by just dropping like that. Of course, once that is all loose inside, the one tension that is maintained is the flexor tendon. And that rotates it very quickly. So within a matter of 3 or 4 days, you can have a complete rotation to the point where the pedal bone is coming through the hoof. And I've commonly seen that. So pass that round and have a look at the two sides of that whilst we get this going here. And I'm just going to show you what the tendons look like. Where are we here? Okay, so this is looking at it from the front, inside the foot, like that. And you can see here that this tendon is coming down here, and this is the suspensory ligament, which crosses over the back of the fetlock and onto the front. And what that does is to lock it, to stop it from dropping. It's got to lock it in position like that. Because as you know, the horse walks around on one foot like that. I did that earlier on, but I didn't want to do that. Okay, so I'll do it this way up. Okay, because the horse walks on his one digit like that. Okay, and because he's got an angle on it like that, you can see the forces on it are astronomical. Okay, every single time the horse takes his weight, you watch a show jumping horse as he lands over the fence. His fetlocks hit the ground. You know, he stretches like this, and then he comes back up again, fortunately. And it's easy to understand why horses damage these flexor tendons. You know, when God was making the horse, he looked in the parts bin on Friday afternoon, didn't he? He saw this beautiful body coming along, and he thought, oh, what are we going to put in there? And he looked in the heart bin, and there was a terrible heart. So he said, well, that's the only one there is, shove it in. Then he looked at the gut bin, and there was a terrible mix-up of a gut, and he shoved that in. Then he looked in the lung bin, and it was terrible. Then he looked in the legs and tendons bin, and they were terrible. So what he's done is to create a horse, okay, with everything terrible except a beautiful body. Okay, sounds like me as well. But you can see here, this tendon is an extensor tendon that locks on that. So if I rotate that tendon now, I'll rotate it round, okay, and we'll come to the back of it. Oh, come on, go round. Okay. Oh, I'll just rotate a bit now. Come on, go round. Thank you. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so this, I'm sorry, it's a bit dark in here, but a bit bright in here. But this is the flexor tendon coming round the back here, like this. You see? And you can see why, if that's fixed at the front, if we just rotate this now to the side, there's the back view of it completely. So if we just rotate this to the pure side now, oh, hello, like this, okay, and you can see what happens. This is attached to the hoof wall, okay. This is not attached to anything really. Okay, it's not attached to anything. It's held only by that. So if we let this go, it's easy to understand why that would rotate like that, because this tension is always there. And that's always there because of the way the horse has to bend on this angle like this. Okay, do you see what I mean? If it's on the angle like this, there's no tension on the front. There's nothing, there's no tension on that at all. It just flops. And that's why even horses that have this tendon cut cope perfectly well. It doesn't matter to them. There's a bit of extra, you know. Okay, but here's this one here, which is much more important. Okay, so this is how that rotation thing occurs. Okay, so when you're looking at a laminitic horse, you have to try to understand A, how the extent of laminitis is, because when the farrier comes out and squeezes the foot, what does he find? If he's got horse has got terrible laminitis, and you've all been feeling digital pulses, I hope, this afternoon, yeah? Have you felt the digital pulses? Yeah. But you all know where to feel them, over the fetlock, and you can feel the pulse. If that pulse is like that, really, really hard, that usually means that there's inflammation in the foot. And if the horse is really lame, of course it could be it's got a nail in the foot, because of course it would do that, but you don't have nails in all 4 feet at the same time, do you? Okay, and because there's much heavier weight carried by the front feet, laminitic horses always lean back to try to distribute the weight more evenly on their feet. Okay, so that's indication that this horse has laminitis. Okay, but that covers a whole multiple range of possibilities, because when you take the hoof testers now to the foot, the severe laminitic responds very quickly, initially at least. But once the tendon, all the tissues inside are dead, it doesn't respond anymore. So you have a hot foot that then starts to go cold. Oh, he's getting better. Joey's getting better. Wrong. Dying. Going to heaven. Okay. Because you've got to be very careful, because once everything is dead inside, there's no way you can reconstitute it. Okay. So that's the bad form of laminitis. The much milder one are the Cushingoid laminitis and the metabolic syndrome laminitis. When that happens, there's a little area of tiredness and a little area and a little area, just like you saw earlier on. When you squeeze that foot, you don't get anything. You don't feel anything. You can feel it, you can tap it, nothing. Okay? Oh, it's not laminitis at all. Wrong, bad, be careful. So the vet comes along with his x-ray machine, doesn't he? Takes an x-ray. Look, there's no pedal bone rotation. It isn't laminitis. Wrong. Could even be may not be. But if it is laminitis, it's bad news. Okay. Now, the important point about metabolic laminitis as opposed to the others is that it gives you some chance. It gives you a chance because the extent of scarring is much less. The extent of limitation to the movement of the hoof wall and to the strength of attachment to the pedal bone are much better. And therefore, you've got a chance. It's when it gets disastrous that you have no chance. And people say, oh, well, you know, my horse has got a 15-degree pedal bone rotation and he's sunk by 1 centimeter, but my farrier's going to get him right. Wrong. He's not going to get him right. He's going to learn to manage it. Because once you have a scar, you have that scar for life. If you own horses, you are going to be scarred. Financially, psychologically, mentally, and physically. Okay? Because that's what scarring is all about. And those scars remain with the animal for the rest of their lives. And so once a horse has had serious laminitis, there is no possibility that this will ever be normal again. I don't believe it's possible.
So how does, sorry to interrupt, but how does that show? Does it show pathologically? I mean, is there something that you can see that is...
No, well, I mean, frankly, no. And that's one of the biggest dangers of all. I think if we all saw things happening, we would be in a much better position to understand that this was an ongoing mechanism. The trouble with it is that you only see the recurrences and the legacies if you let it get away from you again. So if you assume that things are okay and go back to complete normality, and oh dear, it's not. Do you see? So I think if there's one lesson that I try to impart to people, and I know I get a lot of criticism from vets and so on who say, no, they can return to normal. I say, I'm not interested in the 1 or 2 cases that return to normal, because that's a very rare thing for tissue to heal without a scar. Hell, if I nick myself shaving, okay, with a razor blade, you're going to get a scar. And that scar may very well remain with you all your life. It's just a minuscule scar, but it's there nonetheless. But of course, your skin doesn't matter if you've got a scar, does it? It's it's not a big deal, okay? But if you're a horse and your lamina have a scar, that's a different matter, because this is an energy-demanding, very detailed process that has to allow the hoof wall to grow and at the same time has to maintain the weight of the horse. And that's a hideous conflict for a new scar tissue to take on, and I don't think it can happen. So it's there forever. So once you've got your hoof restored back to a normal shape, size, and structure, as far as you can tell from the outside, you should never assume that I can afford to relax now. You cannot relax if your horse has ever had laminitis. And the truth is that probably most horses have had something. So if I had a straw poll here about the number of horses, how many people's horses have had any form of laminitis whatsoever? Well, it's not everybody, but it's more than half. Okay, so if we assume that half the population have had some form of laminitis this year, and next year those fortunate souls who haven't had any laminitis may get one. Do you see? Because those people who've had laminitis usually get it again. Is that your experience?
Yeah, and Cushing's.
And Cushing's disease, yeah. I mean, Cushing's disease is the difficult thing, both the metabolic syndrome, because it's very difficult to restore that to complete normality. In fact, I don't think you can do that. I think, and Cushing's disease itself, the only way you finalize that is, plucking your harp up there, and that's not good. But that means that if you are aware that it is an ongoing commitment, you can get an ongoing benefit, but it may not last forever. No. Look, I'm terribly sorry. But, you have some bloody good memories, eh? Do you remember the time he stood on your foot? Okay. And he wouldn't let go. Do you remember that? I know. I expected that to be the case. 1 minute. Okay. Any questions? Any more questions? Okay. Well, I hope that's helped anyway. It's a bit of a laugh, and I know everyone's exhausted, me included. But anyway, thanks very much for your attention, and thank you very much for my able assistance. Good.